Welcome to the Keep the Faith podcast. I am your host, Tori. And with me today, I have Mr. Robert Shine. I want to say in the building, but we ain't technically in the building. We're on the internet. So, welcome you guys to the Keep the Faith podcast. And I want to introduce, well, actually, I'm going to let Robert Shine introduce himself. Mr. Shine, tell the people just a little bit about yourself before we get into the topic at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I want to thank you for inviting me on your podcast. I'm honored and I'm glad that you brought me here. So, I am a mental health advocate. What I do is outreach to men and young men, more specifically, just to bring more awareness so that we can have more accountability as men um, for things that we do. That's the long and the short.
Okay, cool. Well, tell us, and we were talking about something else prior to going live. What else do you do for a living? We were talking
Oh,
about that briefly.
so I'm a full-time real estate agent, full-time insurance agent. Um, I actually have a sock line that I'm putting out. I like to put my hands in a couple different things.
Listen, that sounds like multiple streams of income to me.
But, hey, it's not as easy as it sounds. It sounds good, but it's a lot of work behind it.
But listen, you're handling it well.
I
And of
appreciate it.
course, MATE is mental health awareness. So we want to address mental health. Now, how long have you been in the mental health field, and what piqued your interest into getting into mental health?
Great question. So I've been doing this for a little over 3 years now, and that comes from a story. I don't know if everybody's heard of Charlemagne, but he wrote a book a couple years ago called Shook Ones, and I was just reading the book, and when I got to the end of the book, I remember the person I was dating at the time. As soon as I closed the book, I said, "Hey, I think I need to go to therapy," because it was a simple approach to mental health.
Hmm.
And what it did was it unplugged me from the matrix. So I had to kind of go on that journey, and um, it's been it's been fulfilling. It's definitely been fulfilling, and I see a lot of things that I went through that I see some black men going through. So that's why I just started doing the outreach program and working with different therapists. We've done programs at colleges, high schools for the child protective services, school programs. So I'm kind of excited to see what the rest of this year is going to bring.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Prior to reading the book, were you, because this is something that we are talking about before going live as well. A lot of times it is hard for men. Now, women will go and seek therapy, but it's not as simple for men. A lot of men are like, I got this. I ain't going to therapy. So prior to you reading the book, were you in that mindset or that headspace? Well, I don't need therapy, or I can handle this on my own. What was your mind frame before reading that book?
I'm not going to say that it was I don't need therapy. It just wasn't in the forefront of my mind. And kind of to make you guys laugh a little bit, if you'd asked me 4 years ago what was self care, I would probably jokingly say, "Man, that's when like women do bubble baths and put the candles out there, play some jazz music." But in reality, that's what self care is. Taking care of yourself and kind of detaching from what's going on in the world, so that you could be a better person when you go out into the world.
Okay. And my other question was, when you said to the person that you was dating at the time, you told them that, hey, I think I need therapy. Was that person receptive to it? Were they received? Did they support you? And if they did, whether they did or not, how important is that to have a supportive partner when it comes to your mental health?
Great question. That person was supportive because they had went through therapy themselves. So I think that it is important, whether it's your partner or whether it's a friend or a family member, to have someone to help you along that journey. Because again, it's tough. Like once you acknowledge what's going on, now it's time to really start holding yourself accountable and just having those self talks and talks with a therapist is really, I don't think it's enough. So you really need to have a support system and just somebody that you could just, let it out go to.
Well, how important is when you're talking to, and I'm going to shift to, because I'm a single parent of a son.
Mm-hmm.
How important it is for us as mothers, or what can we do, mothers raising sons? Like, I'm the type of parent that I ask my son, well, what's going on with you? But sometimes boys and even men don't always open up. Sometimes you go into a shell and you have the tendency to shut down. What can we as mothers, also as a partner, do to help you guys to open up and be able to relax? Because I'm supportive with my child and with my male friends. I'm supportive, but I mean, what can we do better to help you guys to open up?
That's a good question. So if someone isn't ready for it, it's really nothing that you could do except just keep planting those seeds. I tell people all the time, like, I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to plant a seed. Life is going to water it, give it sunshine. When it's time for it to sprout, it'll sprout. When it comes to young men, adolescents, unfortunately, we're not in a world where you could just tell your son, hey, go outside and make some friends. Everything is kind of online right now. So kind of getting them around positive male influences, getting them involved with different programs. You're in Florence, correct?
I'm actually in Darlington, but I'm like 15 minutes away from Florence.
Okay. I forgot which college is out there, but I know the colleges have a lot of youth programs where they would bring young men on campus so that they could get more exposure. And I think that that's the main thing for young men, young Black men specifically, is just exposure. Hey, let's see more than what you're used to seeing, so that you know that the world is bigger than this little block that you're in.
Right. So, what are some of the signs, in your studies, what are some of the signs that will let you know that maybe, because I know for me personally, one of the things that I noticed, that if there's someone that, like friends of mine or even family, I notice that if they become distant, or if they're not as talkative, or I'll notice certain changes. And then there's some friends I notice when they're overly how sometimes people can be depressed, but how they try to mask it, they'll constantly make jokes and they'll constantly try to be in the front. But a lot of times that's a way of a coping mechanism. So what are some of the signs that we should look for to let us know, well, something's not right? What, we may, try to encourage them to talk, and then, like you said, not everybody is going to want to seek help. And that's, even some females don't want to seek help either.
Okay, and that's a good point you made right there. So the first thing is to let people know that it's okay not to be okay. Um, I think that everyone deals with some degree of depression at some point in their life, and that's why it's important to kind of get what depression is. We as a culture are really like adverse to our feelings. Like when you were young, I don't feel good, ma. Hey, go to sleep. My heart ain't right now. Go to sleep. So I heard someone say one time that we're the first generation that has the luxury of therapy. So if you feel that someone is depressed, if someone is distant, first thing, just, hey, let them know it's okay not to be okay, and be the support system. Like, hey, if you want to talk, give me a call. I'm always here for you. You don't want to put too much pressure on them, but you definitely want to let them know that you're a support system for them.
Cause see, I notice, and even I've done this myself. I would shut down, and sometimes when a lot of times when you shut down, you think that the isolation is protecting yourself, but the reality is you're actually you're actually making it worse, because when you isolate yourself, it's like you get into that point, you get into a deeper depression. But I know myself, when I don't want to talk or I don't want to be bothered, I'll shut down, literally shut down. I won't answer my phone. I won't answer my text messages. But I've learned now, moving forward, not to do that, because people worry. And I don't want to, unnecessarily cause people to worry. But I would go into shells sometimes and not come out for like 2 and 3 weeks at a time. But this was before I had my son, of course, and it was
Right.
just me. But prior to me having my son, I was shut down for 2 and 3 weeks and nobody knew what was going on with me. And I'm working on it. I still do it from time to time, but
Guilty. We're all guilty of that. And I don't think that it's a bad thing. Because that time of yourself is time for you to reconnect with yourself. So when I call it, I'm off the grid. I'm focused on a specific goal, and if I'm feeling some type of way, I'm a big advocate for journaling, um, reading books. Like in that time, I want to do something that's going to help progress me, even though I might be feeling bad. It's only so long that you could just feel bad for yourself, and you just gotta get up, do something,
absolutely.
go for a walk, get some vitamin D. It's hot as all get out outside right now, so all the vitamin D is coming down. That's a great way to kind of re-energize yourself. And when you have that alone time, again, I think that's a great time for you to reconnect with yourself. Figure out what's going on. Don't use that time to just be a woe is me moment. Use that time to, okay, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way? What made me feel this way? How do I work on those feelings?
Okay, and I'm gonna show one of the comments. She said, Miss Journey says, often the shutdown moments are for growth and healing.
Hey,
And yes, that's actually good. That's really good. That's real good. Victor says society now wants to label everything as mental. Just another way of saying your normal isn't normal. We are all different. We're not robots. It's like y'all trying to program everyone to think and act the same. Individuality should be celebrated, not discussed with a trained professional. Well, here's the thing, Victor. What works for you may not work for everyone else. You may feel the need that you can handle things on your own, but there are some people that actually need assistance. There's some people that actually need the medication. There's some people that actually got to go and talk to somebody. Not everybody can deal with things on the same level. So just because you're able to handle certain things on a certain level, everybody is not that. Everybody's not capable of doing that. So sometimes you have to have somebody. Sometimes you have to have somebody to talk to. And a lot of times, I will say this, that being a spiritual person, a lot of times being a spiritual person, we say that we pray and things will get better, but sometimes it's going to take more than prayer. And like I said, in some cases there are some people that are going to need more than just trying to handle. Sometimes life can get overwhelming, and it can come from different situations. It could come from the breakup of a relationship. It could be the loss of a loved one that would cause you to shut down. It can be a multitude of things. It could be your children acting crazy. It could be so many things. So something that, Victor, you may be able to handle, I may not be able to handle, and something that I may be able to handle, you may not be able to handle. But everybody has their own way of dealing with things. And people that seek therapy, that's what they have to do for them. But if you don't want to seek therapy and you're able to handle it, then you do what's best for you. But that's not always the case for everyone. Some people, they really need therapy, and therapy saves some people lives, because I know some people that were on the verge of suicide. And I have a confession. I've been there. I've been on the verge of suicide before. I have had probably, I want to say, and this is all prior to me having my son, I had probably, I want to say 3 suicidal attempts.
Oh wow.
So, like I said, everybody do not handle things the same. Something that you may be able to handle, I may not be able to handle. Something, so let's not say it's society this, but everybody handles things in their own way. So, but
Well,
anyway, I'm
Toby,
talking a lot.
I'm glad that you're still here, and we got a lot of changing in the world to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to address what Victor said, and we as men have never been taught to deal with our emotions at all. So I think that we confuse resilience with suppression. Because I could move on from this situation, I think that I've dealt with it. But all you're doing is kind of suppressing that inside. And then what tends to happen is we have these catabolic outbursts. Catabolic is the type of energy that we put out. There's 2 types of energy that we put out. It's anabolic and catabolic. Catabolic is just that negative energy. So what I've noticed is that for us as men, when we are going through something, it's only so many things that we're going to go to. We're going to go to, if we don't have a support system, we're going to go to alcohol, drugs, risky sexual conduct, violence, because our bandwidth of how we deal with things is so small. So I encourage anybody, if you don't want to go to a therapist, get a journal. Get a journal, talk to your friends. When I'm around my friends, all we talk about is sports, women, politics, money. So I kind of want to change that narrative to, hey bro, how you feeling? What's going on? Because it's hard for us as men to really be vulnerable enough to go to another man and let them know that we're not okay. And it's okay not to be okay.
Absolutely. And let's see what Victor says now. Victor says, medicine is a crutch. Everyone wants to be on something. It's celebrated to have issues. We have walked away from the true healer and left it up to man to make the ultimate decision on our quality of life. But if you feel you need to do it, just make sure you need something and not just want it.
Victor, I think that you're confusing mental illness with mental health. So yes, there are some people that have mental illness, schizophrenia, et cetera, et cetera. But mental health is just like going to the gym, like taking a walk. Like if you don't take care of your mind, then your body can't even follow. So again, we're a generation that right now have the luxury of being able to tap into those emotions, tap into ourselves, and just become better. Even growing up, even in the church, everybody was, hey, pray on it, pray on it, pray on it. But I believe that God put people on this earth to help us, and that's kind of my opinion on that, is that if you get sick, you're not gonna pray, you're gonna go to the doctor. You break a leg, you're gonna go to the doctor. You get into a car accident, you're gonna go to your insurance company, you're gonna get you're gonna go to another car dealership. So I believe that God put people on this earth to help us in certain situations. And talking about mental health doesn't mean that you're taking any type of medication. I don't take any medicine at all. I actually don't believe in taking any medicine. I'd rather take the holistic approach, go through a fast, cleanse my body, drink a lot of alkaline. So I don't want you to confuse mental illness with mental health.
And actually go into depth with the differences as far, well, you already explained the mental health aspect. Talk about some of the different type of mental illnesses that would require some type of medication.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have off the top of my head just a list of
Yeah.
mental illnesses. that will require medication, because I'm more so on the mental health side,
Yeah.
just mind, body, soul.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give any false information to the people that's watching the podcast right now. So I
I
apologize.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And let me go to this last comment. What Victor said, I totally understand what mental health is. Everyone's not in the same shape. Avoid mental obstacles when you see them arise. I get it, bro. And see, here's the thing. A lot of times we have to recognize things. I know I'm better now at recognizing things that may cause, that trigger me.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things in certain situations that I'm going to get uncomfortable and it's going to cause a trigger. So I'm able to recognize it now and know that, hey, this is not a good situation, or I recognize it more now. As before, I didn't recognize it as easily, and I would allow myself to get consumed in certain things that I didn't need to consume myself in. But now I recognize, hey, this is not good for my health. Like I tell people all the time, there's certain calls I'm not going to answer. There's certain calls and texts I'm not going to answer because of the fact that some people are draining, and some people, I've learned that you cannot allow, and this is something that I had to learn over time, that you cannot allow people to constantly dump on you, and they're dumping and dumping and dumping and dumping. And I did not know how to balance very well. Like when people dump on me, it's like my back was starting to, I'm leaning crooked because I'm carrying their issues and I'm carrying my issues. So now I've learned, well, I wouldn't say I have it totally together, but I'm learning more and more how to balance. But I was, I feel like I'm good at being a good listener, but I had to learn that it's okay to take some time for Tori. It's okay sometimes to be a little selfish. It's okay to,
Absolutely.
do something for yourself. I used to feel like I always had to be there for people all the time. But I'm learning that in order to keep Tori healthy, I got to take care of Tori mentally,
Absolutely.
physically, and spiritually.
That's a heavy burden to carry right there, trying to save everybody.
Listen.
It's just like when you're on the airplane and they say when the what's it called, the ventilator things.
Yes.
Hey, secure yourself first before you help anybody else. I would like to ask Victor a question though. And Victor, just out of curiosity, how do you self care? I'll wait for you to reply, and then I'm gonna make this comment as well. So,
and while he's thinking about the answer, I'm going to show you this. He said he has bipolar, schizophrenia, multiple personality, severe depression, chemical imbalance. Those are a few.
I
Okay,
appreciate that, Victor. You're a good man, brother. You're a good man. Hey, but let me know how you self care, man. I want to know how you. I want to know what do you do to take time for yourself. Um, and God, Tori, I was going to make a awesome point, but I kind of got lost in the conversation. I apologize about that.
What was it? What was alluding to?
Honestly, it was something that you said, but I lost track. Talking to making sure that I got out to Victor to see how to see self care. I think that's
Okay. Let me pull up this comment while you're thinking. Hopefully, it'll come back to you. And Journey says, very true. Men camouflage a lot of built up emotions because I feel as though they're afraid to express their true emotions. Men cry in the dark, and some women do as well. We all need guidance. We all have been raised in different households and environments in which makes our views on life differently. Communicating and expression changes everything. Woo!
I agree, but again, you got to go to the root of the problem. I'll give you guys a perfect example, and I just remember what I was going to say. So let's say you got two kids playing at the park. A girl falls. Everyone's first reaction to her is, "Oh, hey, are you okay?" They want to console her and make sure that she's good. But when a boy falls, it's like, "Hey, man, get up. Brush it off. You okay? Boys don't cry." And it starts for us at an early age. Boys don't cry. So again, that's suppressing our emotions. Even when I don't know if people still chastise their kids anymore. But when that used to happen, it was like, don't cry, don't cry. Boys don't cry. This, that, and that. You keep crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. Emotionally and physically, you're in distress. But again, we're learning to suppress those emotions. And the point I was going to bring up earlier was it's this thing that I kind of made up. It's called the RoboCop syndrome. I don't know if you guys seen RoboCop, but there was that one scene where he was walking into the warehouse and all the gangsters were around him and they just started shooting him. And he just stood there just like, And I think that that's what we as men go through. Like, we're so used to just putting stuff to the side that we just eat it and keep on going. Like, okay, this happened. I can't worry about that. I got other pressing matters to worry about. I got family. I have work. I have all this stuff. I can't let what's going on affect what I have to do. Mm-hmm. And one day you just kind of wake up and you're like, man, look, I'm missing an arm. Like I'm missing my leg. So the RoboCop syndrome could really get kind of dangerous. And again, that's why I think that we have these catabolic outbursts because we suppress, and eventually it has to come out. And those things that I just said earlier, risky sexual behavior, drugs, alcohol, violence, those are the things that we automatically go back to because we don't have any other way of expressing ourselves.
Yeah. And you made a very valid point because I actually had that discussion before where a lot of times we tell our sons, well, I don't do this, but I know that there's some single mothers that will tell their sons, you got to man up, or, like you said, but I encourage my son to express himself. And, you got to allow, just like you would want your daughter to express themselves, boys have to do that as well, because like you said, when they suppress them as a child, they grow up doing the same thing as an adult male. And sometimes when you are a broken child, you grow up being a broken adult if that problem is never rectified. And I'm gonna go to a comment that Victor replied to Miss Journey, and he says, "It's Miss Journey, it's not celebrate for a man to show emotions. Y'all just want to see us cry, but don't want all the emotions. If you accept the crying, make sure you can deal with all the other emotions that came with that man. So bottling up may be a way to protect you from him." Now, here's the thing that I want to say in regards to that comment, Victor, and I think I've said this before, but a lot of times if you are in a relationship with a male that chooses to express himself emotionally, then if they open up to you, we as women cannot throw that up in their face or use that against them. We have to be supportive of our men and don't use it to, use it to emasculate him, if that makes sense. But I've noticed that sometimes there's some men that will open up to women and then they regret that they open up because that woman used it against them. But you have to use that as a tool to understand, especially if there's somebody that you really want to make things work with. You're going to do whatever you can to understand that person, and you're not going to throw up and, oh, you cried, and just criticize them from open. I don't do that. I don't do that. But not all women are the same. There's some people there you will open up to them and then they'll throw up in your face. Well, you remember it's just women don't do that.
Victor, you're right, man. We're warriors. Like we're not supposed to show any emotion, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, the way that the world is progressing, we can't afford to be in that Neanderthal mindset. I'm not saying that you have to be all in your emotions, crying, hey, you hurt my feelings. Like, because at the end of the day, it is not celebrated for a man to show his emotions. But the whole point behind the awareness that I'm trying to bring is for men to be more accountable for their actions. Like, hey, why are you doing this? What caused you to do this? Is it something that we need to address? Because when you get introduced to the world of mental health, it's like getting unplugged from the matrix. You never look at the world again because you hear it when people talk to you. You see it in the way that people move, and you want to help people. So you're right. Men being emotional is not celebrated by the world, and I'm not saying that you should go seek therapy or dive into your mental health for you to be emotional, but for you to connect with yourself to know what you're feeling. One thing that a therapist taught me is that anger is always a second emotion. All right. Like nobody just wakes up angry. There's something in between there. It might be uh, something that you're ashamed of, anxiety. Something is in the middle that gets you to that level of anger. And one of my friends, one of my real good friends, when I was first starting my journey, would call me and say, "Hey, how you feeling?" "Well, I'm good. I'm good." And how many times have you talked to your homeboys and they're like, "I'm good. I'm good." And what really tripped me out is she said, "Hey, good's not an emotion. Good's not a feeling." So she sent me an emotional chart, and that way, if I'm feeling some type of way, I can actually pinpoint that emotion. Hey, you know what? I am feeling this way. I am feeling this way, and there's nothing wrong with you acknowledging how you're feeling, sitting in that for a minute, and then moving forward. Again, what we want to do is we want to acknowledge. All right, we want to address, we want to fix, and we want to move on. We don't want to suppress it because again, you keep suppressing, and next thing you know, catabolic outbursts. And I've had a few of those in my life, so it's not a pretty sight. It's not a pretty sight at all.
Right. And then I also pulled some things offline before we went live. And these are some things. Uh, and Charlene says, I love the chart of emotions. You guys got to share that with me because I've never seen it before. So definitely share that with me.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. And then Vic says, another great podcast. Love the topic. I definitely learned a few things. Love that picture behind you, bruh. Keep striving.
The greatest entrepreneur ever, man. The greatest entrepreneur ever. My God.
And so, yeah, definitely send me that chart. And here's something I pulled offline earlier. It says 4 things you can say to a friend in need. We haven't talked in a while. How are you doing? You seem kind of down lately. Let's talk and see if there's a way I can help. Seems like you're having a hard time. I've been there too, and it can help to talk about it. If you're having a hard time, I'm a judgment-free ear you can talk to. And a lot of times, like I said, if I notice a difference with someone, whether it be family, and even with my son, I'll say things. And I notice with my son, and I guess let me tell you something. One thing about me, I notice sometimes I could be probably, I don't want to say pushy, but I can be persistent. And I'm like, are you okay? And then I'm like, are you sure? You sure? And my son be like, yeah. My male friends be like, will you please stop at? But it's just out of concern. So I have to learn that, not to, be so pushy sometimes when I notice their difference. So I'm learning to give people space and be like, I'm here. If you need to talk, I'm here. But like I said, sometimes with my male friends, they be like, listen, I told you I was okay. But I can clearly see that they're not.
Again, when it's their time to speak on it, they'll speak on it.
Yeah.
Just stay consistent with your approach, and let them know that you're that support system for them, no matter what they're going through.
Yeah. And Victor says no pushy. Victor, listen, Victor is one of my homeboys, so he already know how I am. He knows how I am, but I can be really sometimes, and I'm learning with my son not to, to bother him. And then when it comes to teens, a lot of times like they use sports as an outlet. Because I remember one year, my son, he was just becoming a teenager, and I wanted to take him out. And instead of him going out for his birthday, it was his birthday. And instead of him going out for his birthday, he wanted to go shoot hoops, and I didn't understand that. But a male friend of mine had to break it down to me. Sometimes that is an outlet that boys, or sometimes that kids use as an outlet to things that they may be going through. Because I know my son would tell me, "Well, you don't know what I'm going through," and I'm like, "You a kid? What are you going through?" But I had to understand, children go through things as well.
Exactly. We gotta acknowledge and validate their feelings. So, you know, doing sports, being creative. Um, I'm thinking about getting into painting as well. But just to, just those anabolic ways of releasing your stress and letting things out is really important. My god kids hate me because every Christmas I'm getting you a journal, I'm getting you a book, and then I get you a gift. But the journal and the book come first because I want them to start off like, hey, just write stuff down. Even if you don't, if you don't have anything to write down what you're grateful for today.
Right.
You start off small, you start off with one line, next thing you know, you're doing 3 pages. And it's just something that has been helpful for me. So I'm definitely an advocate for, I don't want to say pushing it, but suggesting it to people.
Yeah. And I actually been journaling since middle school, I think. And even when I took a class in college, one of our professors encouraged us to journal. Actually, journaling was part of our grade. We
Oh wow.
actually had to journal. So journaling definitely helps. And I am a poet, so I write as well. So some things that I journal about, I end up writing about it, and writing poetry for me has been my therapy. Now, let me look at Miss Journey. She was responding to Victor. She said, "Victor, I can understand the logic of your response. Bottling up isn't a great way to create a realistic relationship with anyone. We should all open up more with the right individuals." Great reply. And most women will accept the tears and everything behind them. And that is absolutely correct. Because I actually had a male friend of mine to open up to me about something to the point that they were in tears. And then after they opened up and was in tears, they felt the shame. I'm like, why? I'm not going to I'm not going to make you embarrassed or throw it. I'm not that type of. Now, in the past, different relationships they've been in and different friendships they had, they made them feel bad. But I was like, I'm not them. I'm different. But they felt bad. And just like something you said earlier in reference to when you said anger is not the first emotion. Something
Mhm.
that there's always something to trigger it, because someone told me just probably 2 to 3 weeks ago, there was some anger that that came up in me. But what triggered that anger was something from my past that caused me shame. And they recognize you expressing the shame and this anger, and they pointed out and they called me out on it. But I was able to receive it. I didn't say, "Well, no, that's not." But they were spot on when they told me that. They said, "I see the shame, and because of that shame, that's why you're angry." So I'm glad you said that anger is not the first emotion.
Right.
'Cause I didn't quite understand it. And now it makes sense, that why sometimes, even my son is better now, but like before, he would have some type of anger because sometimes, like I said, I'm not in the position to teach him how to be a man, but sometimes I think the anger would rise because you know he would want his father to be there, and he wasn't. So I think that was the issue. But he's getting older now, and things has gotten better. But I know initially, early on, that was one of the biggest things that would cause the anger because of the absence.
And I totally understand where he's coming from because I dealt with the same thing myself. I tell people all the time, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. So I tell people all the time I could pick up a rock, throw it in any direction, it'll probably land there near my pop's feet. But I could count on one hand how many times I've been with him in my life. And that was something that I needed to address because I did have anger issues because of that. I had abandonment issues, even though I was blessed to have a tribe of men around me to kind of help guide me. Like a lot of older folks that I think I was truly blessed in that fact for them to help guide me through my life. But it was always just that resentment, so that was something that when I started on my journey, that was one of the first things I did, and so I drove down to Charleston. I called my sister. Hey, where Pop's at? Yeah, grandma's house. Okay, cool. I'm about to go up there. And that anger built up again. I wanted to come out and be like, man, look, I done did all this, da 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 da. You haven't been in my life. And when I got there, it was actually kind of heartbreaking a little bit because he almost didn't recognize me. Maybe it's the beard, maybe it's the he hadn't seen me in a while, but when I seen him, I just wanted to get to know him as a man. I think that we forget that our parents are people too, and they might be going through some things that we're not privy to knowing. So I don't ever want to pass judgment, even though I felt some type of way about it. But I just took that time out just to get to know him as a man. And we're working on our relationship right now. But if I would have let that anger come out and I wasn't able to recognize it and control it, I don't think that we would be where we are right now.
That's good to hear. And speak on that note, what encouraging words, because I know my son is watching, what encouraging words would you give to male boys that are growing up without their father? Now, of course, you can expose them to positive male role models, but sometimes they still yearn for their biological father. And some they will grow up having that anger. And then there's going to be some that, because my son said this to me one day. He said that when he gets older, this is a personal conversation that him and I had. He says when he get older and he has kids of his own, he want to make sure he's always there for his child. And it literally, I was tearing up, you know, to hear him say that. I was like,
Well,
and I
we
didn't
have
know how to respond.
we have a lot of men that I know that didn't have their father in their life that said that same thing. So the advice that I could give to them, I mean, honestly, it's not a cookie cutter approach to it. But at the end of the day, you can't let any outside influences dictate your life. You got to hold yourself accountable and, not point the finger. And that's a part of the growth of it, and honestly, I wish I had an answer, that would really help these young men out. But I think that the programs that we're doing, the organizations that are out here right now, they're doing a good job with being inside these kids' lives, so they do have some type of positive male influence. So yeah, I just journal. I go back to the journal. Write how you feel. Find a positive way to turn that energy into something positive. And don't worry about things that you can't control. You can't control that person isn't in your life. As bad as you want it, you can't control it. So you just got to focus on yourself and look for those triggers so that you can progress through your life. And one thing that I do want to add is that mental health is a lifelong journey. Again, once you get exposed to it, you just don't do one thing and everything's better. It's a 1% better every day type thing. Some days you're going to backtrack, and you're gonna have your moments. That's life. But as long as you kind of keep your head forward, keep your neck straight, I think that a lot of, I'm excited what this new generation is going to do out here.
Yeah. And touch base on your outreach program. Tell us a little more about the outreach program that you have.
Oh, yes. So, One day I was outside in my backyard and I think it was at night. I was looking at the stars and I was like, I wish somebody would have taught me how to communicate when I was younger because all I did was play sports, talk with your pads, we don't yap out here, this, that, and the other. So I said to myself, I wish somebody would have taught me how to communicate better. So right now we're working on a program right now where we're gonna get middle schoolers, so 6th through 8th grade, and it's kind of like the great debaters. So we'll have some political topics, some fun topics, and have schools kind of go against each other so that these students can learn how to communicate and get exposure to something different.
Okay. That sounds like a plan. Well, make
Yeah,
sure you keep
I'm
me
excited.
abreast about that so I can do some advertisement for you to promote it because that sounds like something good. I really wish there was something that Kadarius could have done when he was in the middle school, and now he's a sophomore. And I'm so very proud of him. And Miss Journey says, "Now that's awesome." And she's talking about your outreach program. That it is awesome. That is phenomenal.
Okay.
And so we actually have to have these things in place for our children, especially, I mean, for little girls as boys, but more so for the boys, because like I said, a lot of times they're taught to hold in their emotions. So they definitely need this outlet. Now, this is something else I was going to ask you earlier too. When
Mhm.
we were talking about having the outlets that men may have.
Uh-huh.
What's your take? And I listen, this is something that I had to I started to question myself. Now, I used to be really a stickler for men and video games, but
Mhm.
then I had a guy say to me, "Well, it's an outlet. Would you rather for me to play the video game, or would you rather for me to be in the street with different females? It could be the video game, or I can be in the streets doing other things." So I had a real issue with grown men playing video games, but I had to understand that sometimes that's an outlet.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you a backstory before I give you an answer to that. I don't think that it's a cookie cutter approach to it. However you self care is how you self care. Um, but I remember talking to this brother in Atlanta, and I asked him, "Hey, how do you self care?" He got like 5 kids. He worked 2 jobs, and he was like, "Self care, what's that?" So I was like, "How do you take care of yourself?" And it was kind of heartbreaking when he told it to me. He said the only time I had to myself is when I take a shower. Like I would
Wow.
literally take a shower for an hour just to have that time to myself. So again, our bandwidth for how we self care is so narrow that it is important for us to broaden our horizons and try different things. So yeah, video games might be cool, but hey, what's a passion project of yours? Do you like art? Do you like music? Do you like gardening? Do you like working out? I think that we should have multiple tools in our belt so that we just don't rely on that one thing, such as video games, to kind of have our outlet.
Okay. And you made a I know one of my homeboys like to work out too.
Hey, look, the gym will save your life, man. Like, you're looking
Here
good
comes
too.
here come Victor. Women love trying to dictate how a man spends his free time. Now that's unhealthy whether we home or or not. It's a problem. Listen, I'm just saying. But Victor, I will say that I've gotten better. But I used to be like, why you want to play? I'm not gonna lie. I was why, but I'd rather for them to be home playing a video game than be in the streets. So listen, I'm still working on it. But we actually have to do something whatever, people have their own way of self-care and having an outlet. And I'm sorry, you were about to say something?
Oh, no, 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 no. I was just agreeing with what you were saying.
Yeah. So, But listen, I don't want to take up too much more of your time on this Sunday evening, but tell everyone if they want to reach out to you, whether it be with any of your jobs that you have with real estate, mental health, if they want to reach out to you, how can they get in contact with you? Give them their social media handles or emails or whatever you want to provide, so people, because you never know who may watch this podcast. I'm like, hey, listen, I may need to reach out to Sean, and he may be able to give me advice on this. Or like I said, you're in real estate, so you never know, somebody may want, like, hey, Sean, matter of fact, Sean, where are you? You in Atlanta, right?
I'm in Augusta.
Okay, you're in Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
Why was I thinking you was in Atlanta?
I was in Atlanta for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you doing like the what do you call it? Straight out, what do you call it? I'm not not really good about real estate, but what do you call it when okay, say you see a property and you want to fix that property up and sell it. Do you call that flipping homes? What is that
Yeah,
called?
flipping homes.
Okay. Is that something that you do as well?
Actually, I'm looking to transition out of that. I mean, unless I run across a deal or something.
Okay.
But I'm looking to get more into syndications this year.
Okay.
And pretty much a syndication is a crowdfund. About 4 years ago, the government made it pretty much legal for you to crowdfund and put money together. And I think that one thing that we're missing as a people is pretty much capital. You know, we don't have any. It's hard for one person to buy up everything, but if we all get together and buy these things, or we get into these investments, these commercial properties, these new developments, I think that it's a great way to kind of start the path for, a new way of generational wealth.
Wow. And that was actually, you said exactly what I was about to ask. You just answered my question. There's no even ask, but that was what I was getting at. Generational wealth.
I'm gonna say this: the first and easiest way to generational wealth for your children is to get an insurance policy. Get it while you're young and hold on to it for as long as you can. Get you a $500,000 policy, $1 million policy. The money that you put in won't be nowhere near that. And if something happened to you, your kid's set tax free.
Wow. And here's the thing. I'm glad you said that, brought back about the insurance too, because there's some people that have insurance on their phone and don't have insurance on themselves.
Yep. They got health insurance, telephone insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance. Like, it's like a million insurance companies out there. And honestly, insurance is not that expensive. What I tend to find out is that when people start looking for it, it's after something has happened. So they might have had a health issue or a scare or something like that. They might be a little bit older, and it tends to get a little pricey the older you get. That's why I just encourage people: hey, get a policy while you're young. Get a policy that if the world shut down like it did in 2020, you could pick up change on the ground for a week and find enough money to pay your insurance, because that's literally the easiest way to transfer generational wealth to the generation behind you.
Okay. And share with everyone your social media handles if they want to get in contact with you. Or like I said, you never know, someone may be watching. It's like they may want you on their podcast, may want you on their show. So how can they get in contact with you?
Hey, I'm welcome to get on everybody podcast. So my website, my email, my Facebook, and Instagram is all Sold by Shine. So SOLDBY, and the name is down there at the bottom, SHINE. And you can reach me through all those platforms like that. You can even Google me if you want.
Okay. So that's Sold by Shine on all social media platforms?
Yep, that's Facebook, Instagram. That's my website, and my email address.
Okay. And that's soldbyshine@gmail.com.
Correct.
Sold by Shine on Instagram, Sold by Shine on Facebook.
And Sold by
and the
Shine.
website. And so is that soldbyshine.com?
Yep.
Okay. That's easy.
Yeah, try to make it easy for everybody, right?
I like that. That is so I like that. Well, Mr. Shine, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. And once we end the broadcast, I want you to hang on because I got some other questions to ask you as well off the air. But
Okay.
thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday. And like I said, I'm gonna check my schedule for next month because I may want to have you back next month to address focusing, still talking about mental health, but want to basically focus on the men next month. And Charlene McKnight says, great conversation. Thank you,
Thank you,
Charlene.
Colleen. And again, Tori, I'm honored that you had me on here to speak. It's been a pleasure.
Listen, I tell you, I'm going to have you back. And matter of fact, like, well, you know what? I'm going to ask you something when we get off the air. But thank you guys for watching. And like I always do at the end of the show, I always tell people that no matter what you go through in this thing called life, you may bend, but don't you dare break. And always remember to keep the faith. And thank you guys once again for watching. Now, if you missed the beginning, watch the replay and make sure you share this podcast. Tell a friend and make sure, and let me also put the my number on the screen as well. If you would like to be a guest on the Keep the Faith podcast, you can email me at faithisnecessary@gmail.com, or you can call me at 843-920-8124. That's 843-920-8124. And at that number, you can actually leave a voice message or a text message, and I will get back to you. And like I said, if you want to be a guest, or if you just have a topic that you want me to address, by all means, I'm open to it. Just contact me, and I look forward to hearing from you. But like I said, thanks again, Mr. Shine. And I'm definitely going to have you back. Like I said, I'm going to talk to you exactly a show that I want to have you on in the future. But thank you guys for watching, and make sure you share the podcast, tell a friend, and also follow the Keep the Faith Facebook page and also subscribe to the Keep the Faith with Tori on YouTube channel. You guys have a great evening, and make sure you take care of your mental health and do what is necessary to self-care. We are out.
Love.
Peace.
Peace.